Hi, everyone. My name is Deanna Newsom, and this is a presentation for my Social Justice and Human Rights Compendium, A Colorful World Centering Black Rights. What does a true, diverse, equitable, inclusive, and accessible world look like to you? Do you think with our current social climate that this is still achievable? When I think of a true DEIA society, my mind automatically brings up the question of how it will affect Black people. What happens when we can no longer stay ignorant to our society's colonial foundation, having to depend on the subjugation of Black people, Black bodies, and all that revolves around it? In a world that globally is anti-Black, to reach a DEIA future that is sustainable for all means to face head-on the oppression that Black people have experienced in mass for centuries, the white people who are leading the oppressive ways and have benefited, and the marginalized or minority groups who stand idly by as to not be grouped with Black people and or subjected to the same horrific treatment. As a dark-skinned Black woman who has lived in the Deep South for the entirety of her life, I've experienced the oppression done onto Black people more times than I'd like to admit. Fortunately, though, I have the resources and support around me to not feel it as intensely as others Black people may. But in that, I start to question what really could be done for Black people if we are constantly being met with pushback or challenges to progress. Even more so, I question why the suffering of Black people could be so well documented, have research that identifies the whys and hows of our suffering, and yet still be at a place where our rights are constantly being undermined, overturned, or straight up ignored, even though the supposed goal of our woke society is to have a DEIA at the forefront. Centering Black people, Black bodies, Blackness in our pursuits for social justice and human rights is essential and the answer for dismantling oppression. But how is that possible if all, even our own, are socialized to see our mistreatment as normal and sometimes even encouraged? My compendium is meant to be an open-ended question to academics, scholars, and those who find themselves in or interested in social justice and human rights for all. I go over key factors that have resulted in the lack of progression in our society, like colonialism and uplifting white voices, opinions, attitudes, etc., over the people who are actually suffering, especially when the suffering is a result of white interference or white saviorism. Through my papers, I critique the role that centering whiteness plays in the humanitarian sphere and the effects of functioning under a standard that's rooted in colonialism in the Southern plantation. Historical context gives way to why and how we are still abiding by an outdated and racist system. Furthermore, to justify the systemic oppression and racism, implicit biases stemming from the racist portrayal of others still stand strong in our society today and can be the determining factor of whether you are seen as good enough to be considered a victim and worthy of the majority's help and resources. We look to the oppressors to relieve the oppressed and wonder why the resources, awareness, and support is only surface level. If we want to move towards a progressive future, centering Black people and our experiences is necessary for our DEIA to be achievable since socially, DEIA has been coined as a Black problem and also because the majority of oppressive ways gets its framing all from always positioning Black people as the oppressed, with white people and minorities who value close proximity to them for the same benefits as the oppressors. We have the ability to make substantial change in social justice and human rights, have the progressive tools to virtually anything we can think of, yet are still stuck in a cycle that depends on the empathy of white people to lead a society that was shaped by their own intolerance for people of color, but more specifically, Black people. If we center Black people and Blackness instead, how different would our world look if the most oppressed were finally on a level playing field? And what does that mean for others who will have to assimilate in order to not be left behind or ostracized? Are they willing to give up the generational benefits for a true DEIA future, or will that too be destroyed when they realize what it actually takes to do so? And here's an outlook of the papers that I have done over the past 2 years of this program that reflect the framework and theories that I'm going over and have been focusing on. And then as well, I have my influential works page. So these are scholarships that have shaped my advocacy and have helped me evolve as a writer and an advocate for social justice and human rights. I hope you all enjoyed my presentation. Thank you for watching and listening.